Welcome to Pat Writes Books. The video you're about to watch is intended for mature audiences. It will likely contain an abundance of cursing, adult discussions, and worst of all, personal opinions. So chill out, grab a snack, and enjoy the show. Take it away, Sensei.
How's it going, everyone? It's Pat, your friendly internet wordsmith, and today we're going to be talking all about editing and revising your work. So you've written a book, gotten all your words and thoughts and ideas down onto the page, and you're feeling pretty good. You're maybe thinking that now it's time to publish and put that book baby out there into the world. Well, I hate to be the one to break it to you, but no, you still got a long way to go. If you didn't know, there are 5 stages to the writing process, and these are pre-writing, drafting, editing, revising, and publication. And yes, that is the proper order you should be following. As you can see, you still have 2 steps left to go. Now I know what you're thinking. Editing and revising are the same thing, right? Well, no, they are 2 totally different processes. Revision is the act of going through your story and tuning up the content of the story. It's going through and fixing plot holes, taking a look at character development, beefing that up, or going through and maybe straight up removing a scene because when you wrote it, it seemed hella cool at the time, but it was whack as fuck. Yeah. Editing, on the other hand, is going through your work and fine-tuning the technical stuff. It's going through sentence by sentence, making sure the structure is good. Making sure you use the right form of words. Maybe you have a long paragraph that could serve better as 2 paragraphs. Stuff like that. It's going through and tuning things up on a technical, the real English stuff. Now, originally I planned on separating this into 2 separate videos, but once I got to writing out like the 3rd tip, it clicked in my head that wait, all of this shit applies to both tasks, both editing and revising. So yeah, take this advice and apply it accordingly. Tip number 1, make sure you give yourself a break before beginning each step of the process. Now I know it's probably tempting to, once you finish a stage of the writing process, to go ahead and dive headfirst into the next one. But trust me, one of the worst things that you can do is not giving yourself time to decompress once you finish one of the stages. As a writer, if you're doing things correctly, you will have read your work approximately 2.6 million times before you're done. Of course, I'm joking, but not really. After, say, your 3rd run-through of your manuscript, shit can really start to blend together. Furthermore, you can find yourself stuck in one particular mode of thinking and potentially miss something that's totally fixable. Taking a short rest in between stages of the writing process gives your brain a chance to basically reboot and come back to your work fresher. In such a state, you're in a better position to think more critically about your work and in turn make better decisions. Tip number 2, you need to keep your mind focused on one task at a time. Again, I know it can be tempting to try to, say, edit and revise at the same time. As I said before, you're gonna read through your own work a lot. So again, it can be tempting to want to cut down on those read-throughs by lumping together tasks. Well, when you break things down, it's really not worth it. Like with most things in life, when you try to divert your attention, you inevitably also divert your effort. And in doing so, you can't give 100% to both tasks, if that makes sense. Now, of course, if you're a seasoned writer and you can get to learn your own quirks, this can become easier and you can make less mistakes on the first draft. However, if you're just starting out, I highly recommend keeping editing and revising as 2 separate tasks that you do in 2 separate read-throughs. On to tip number 3, you should read your work out loud. There is a key difference in the way that we process things that we hear as opposed to things that we read. For example, I have a really bad habit when I'm writing, and this goes for writing academically or fiction, doesn't matter what I'm writing. I have a really bad habit of leaving words out. Words like and, to, be, words that you find connecting different things in a sentence. Now, when reading this back, and I'm just reading it in my mind, a lot of times my brain fills in those gaps because it knows what's supposed to be there. So my eyes don't see something's wrong. I have to really look and focus on whether or not the word is actually there, because in my head as I'm reading it, it knows it's supposed to be there, so it fills it in. Reading out loud for me forces me to look closer at the words because I'm while reading them in my mind, I'm also hearing them out loud. So it's a lot easier for me to pick up on a word that's missing. In terms of revision, it helps me when I'm reading lines and a line might look really good on paper, but when you hear it spoken out loud, it gives you that, kind of like what the fuck face, if that makes sense. Furthermore, this is an amazing tip when it comes to writing dialogue. And this is even better if you have someone, your partner, significant other, best friend, whatever. If you can read one side of the conversation, have them read the other side of the conversation. If you're reading some dialogue and you're like, yeah, that's weird, people don't really talk with this is an amazing tip to write believable, natural flowing dialogue. Tip number 4, you should break things down into manageable chunks. Now, admittedly, this one is pretty dependent on what kind of work you're doing. For example, if you're writing flash fiction or short story, something that you can burn through reading in just a short sitting, then you can disregard this tip. However, if you're, say, working on a novel, a novella, screenplay, longer bodies of work, trying to hammer through that even in bigger chunks, it's a bad idea. If you've ever done any work that involves looking at text over, long periods of time, hours on end, that kind of thing, I'm sure you can relate to this. Eventually, it just sucks. Your eyes start to feel like they're going to bleed. It's a bit extreme, but you catch my drift. You catch a headache. It's not pleasant. And eventually, your productivity is just shot. Personally, I like to set chapter goals when I'm editing and revising and doing stuff. And I typically don't like to spend more than one season doing it. So for example, if I'm revising over the summer, that gives me 4 months to get that work done. Now, 4 months translates into 16 weeks. So hypothetically, I'm working on a 56 chapter book. That gives me roughly around 3 chapters a week I need to complete. Now, of course, if I am highly motivated, it's a slow week for me in my personal life or whatever, and I can do more than that 3 chapters a week, then, by all means I will. But at a minimum, I want to try to shoot for at least 3. And finally, tip number 5, you need to remember to be confident and stay positive. Sadly, writing is a profession that comes with an abundance of doubt. There's a stigma that degrees in English and creative writing, art in general for that matter, these degrees are a waste of time and money because they don't easily translate into careers. And as such, it can be a struggle to find support, even from, those closest to you. Furthermore, writing is also a highly competitive field, and that goes for whether or not you want to go the self-published or traditional route. It really doesn't matter. With such fierce competition, it can be easy to get discouraged by looking at your writing peers who have found success with their work, and you're reflecting on your own and wondering if you're making the right decisions. If you allow yourself to fall victim to these negative feelings, they can lead to a crippling self-doubt that can negatively impact your work. In a worst-case scenario, you may feel compelled to give up on writing altogether. What's important to remember is that the work you are doing matters, and nobody can tell your story the way you can tell your story. You have a voice that is unique to you, and a voice that is all yours to hone and share with the world. And even though there will be those out there who do not like your work, it's a fact, there will also be those out there who will find your words utterly enchanting. So no matter what, keep on writing, keep pushing forward, and remember, you can do this. And that's going to do it for this one. If you couldn't tell, editing and revising are both majorly important steps in the writing process, and you shouldn't skimp on either of those. And just a quick side note, you may be tempted to just do all the editing and revising on your own, but do not. You cannot do this solely on your own. Yes, you need to edit and revise your work as much as possible, polish it up as beautifully as you can. However, there is no substitute for a professional editor. Trust me, you can't. You need a professional set of eyes looking through your work. They will catch things that you will have read a million times and found nothing wrong with. Trust me, you need a professional edit. Feel free to drop down below and leave a comment. I'd love to get your opinion on the topic.
Thanks for kicking it with us. If you had a good time, go ahead and slap that like button. And if you're new, consider subscribing, because we do this every week. Of course, you're going to want to hit that bell too so you never miss an upload. Have an awesome day, achieve something great, and we'll catch you later.